I think it's a very significant milestone that we've reached, the 100-year anniversary of the Limerick Soviet. There are a number of us around this table who have crossed paths with each other over the years in trying to maintain this story and bring it alive, and more importantly, to keep it from now on what it should be known as the never to be forgotten again revolution. And I think it's important, you know, that we take it out of the hidden pages of history, and that we show this and showcase it to the world, you know, what solidarity and people power can do. It's very, very important, the lessons we can learn from it. And the newspaper of the day, the Bottom Dog, that obviously played a part in the political and social scene in Limerick as well over the years, and in one guise or another the Bottom Dog was kept alive over the years. So I'd just like to say a big huge thank you to Rob McNamara, who is the current editor of the Bottom Dog, and the hard work and dedication he has put into trying to bring out the special editions every now and a while. It's very hard to continue to bring out repetitive editions of the Bottom Dog, but hopefully we will keep that story alive as well. It's part of our heritage and this whole story in the Limerick Soviet. So we have a lot to do over the next month, so I'd just like to hand you over to Rob now to say a few words and to officially launch the special edition of the Bottom Dog. And I think more importantly we want to pay special tribute to our dear colleague Pat O'Connor as well in doing so. Thanks guys.
Cheers, thanks. I suppose thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. It is a great honour really to stand before you this evening, and I suppose play a little part in celebrating the history and paying tribute to the great men and women who had the foresight to really, and it was, take on an empire, I suppose, when you think of it. It was huge. They recognised that the trade union movement was more than just an industrial struggle. It was a political struggle. It was an all-encompassing struggle. And I suppose all we want to do with this is pay tribute to the Soviet, pay tribute to those who took part, but also try and link it to today's Parliament in a little bit, because the struggle does go on. The struggle for workers' rights, if you look at it, you know, how much has it really come on in all of those years? In my job as a trade union official, I question myself on that every day of the week, because it's getting harder and harder to get people to take collective actions. But there are some encouraging signs. There are a lot of encouraging signs. But I suppose, look, all we'd like to do is to thank the contributors. There's some of them in the room, and maybe they'd like to say a few words themselves on the articles they wrote. I see Keane is here, and Morris is there, and Joe Harrington, and I'm sure there's a couple more that I'm missing out. And I suppose the Trades Council as well. You know, with all of these things, it's kind of lastminute.com, and when Mike said it was the editor, I suppose, look, in fairness to the guys who contributed, there wasn't really much editing to be done, really, right? It was just a scramble to get the articles in, get it to the printers and get it back. But I suppose, look, in typical sort of left style, we did it on a shoestring. So look, that's all I'd really like to say is thank you for allowing me to play a little part in celebrating this. You know, despite all, you know, the little bumps along the road, it's a magnificent programme of events for the next month, and it's a tribute to the left of Limerick to be able to pull that all together, despite the differences, the little bumps in the road. Fair play to everyone involved. Thanks, and it is available for sale for the solidarity price of €5. As we said, we will accept 5 Soviet shillings if anyone's got them hanging around. I would say, based on the fact that these gentlemen bought one for auction for about $3 grand one time, I would be doing quite well if anyone actually has one. But look, thanks a mil. And I suppose enjoy the rest of the festival. And I think just a couple of small, I'll maybe ask all the contributors that wrote articles that are in the room to say a few words. But there's a couple of small things that we're promoting as well. There's a bus tour that we're doing on Sunday week. There's a couple of tickets left. There's about 15 tickets left. I know I've been saying that on Facebook for about 2 weeks, but that's just they're only $6.75 or $6.
They're age room.
Are they? No, I think they're $6.75. But anyway, not to correct my wife. I think that's
You're quite sure off the ticket
and obviously the trade union parade tomorrow will be very important if we can have a show of strength. So look, thanks a million. And Ella, I taught you what to say. The bottom dog barks again.
I'd like to call on Joe Harrington to say a few words just in relation to how, Joe, you played a big part in this down through the years in keeping both the story of the Limerick Soviet alive and indeed the bottom dog at some stage as well over the time. So if you wouldn't mind just saying a few words as well, I'd appreciate it.
Well, briefly, I'm delighted to see the bottom dog again, reappearing. It was part of my life and a couple of other people here in the room's life for quite a few years one time. And we actually had, we numbered the bottom dog in the way you were doing it as well, continuing the numbers from when it originally came out back all those years ago. And when we took it on in the 70s, I suppose it was, we continued the numbering as well. We actually had the bottom dog paper that time going on a fortnightly basis, and the print run was 1,000. And it was sold in the housing estates in South Hill and Myross and places like that, as well as down at the market and down at the main street in O'Connell Street there. And it was popular. I look back at some of them and I wonder how we got away at all with what we put into it. There was some stuff that was bordering on libelous, and these days we would not get away with it, but we did. And the other thing about it at the time was that the group that brought it out were a mixture. It was a united project from Sinn Féin, people's, what would we call that? and some other individuals and groups as they came and went. And there was never a falling out over it, so that was nice to see that a bit of unity there actually succeeded in putting a publication on the streets of Limerick in such numbers and for such a long time, and it just shows how things can be done. Just my own contribution, I suppose. I'm not even sure it was innocent like it was basically, I was delighted and Pat O'Connor, who takes such a big part in keeping the Limerick Soviet flag flying in this commemorations over the years, and also in being part of the Bottom Dog group, we had a bit of a commemoration for him there shortly after he passed away, and I had written an article about it, which of course was only heard or seen by a small few that were at that, and I was delighted for the opportunity to put it into something that would be seen in a wider scale and that would be there for a long time to come then once it's printed in the Bottom Dog. So I was delighted at that. So that's it.
Thanks. Liam, would you like to say a few words as well?
I promise I'll just say a few, Mike. I just want to say thanks to Robert and to yourself for the invitation to contribute a piece to the Bottom Dog. What I've written is on what is called the 3 C's, Casey, Carr and Cronin. And what appealed to me about it was to try and flesh them out a little bit as people and in their lives, kind of give a more total picture of them rather than just the kind of narrow kind of historic black and white picture that we might have taught from, because like all of the Trades Council at that time and like all the other union leaders and union activists who were in Limerick at that time, they were absolutely wonderful people. When you think of the feat of organisation, that the task that they took on to oppose British militarism in Ireland, as they said on the notes, but the way in which they went about it, and certainly at local level here in Limerick, I think we can say that it was a success. And I'm delighted to see that the Bottom Dog is still in fine fettle. He's not by any means limping along or anything like that, and he's hopefully with the subscription he'll be well fed going into the future. Because as you know, in the history of Limerick and in the development towards the Limerick Soviet itself, the 48 issues of the Bottom Dog that Benjamin edited was a very important step on that way to making working people realise that they could have their own newspaper and they could have their own voice. And I suppose from a historical point of view, what's interesting about it is that it was a collaboration, between trade unionists of different types of backgrounds. There was not only the craft trade unionists, but there were people involved as well in the Irish Transport and General Workers Union, who at that stage were kind of a newly arrived union in Limerick. And so it was that kind of, you could nearly say, I think, that the Bottom Dog was the first real sign we saw that all of the workers of Limerick, irrespective of whether they were skilled or unskilled, were starting to work together in a project. And I think what we see is that when it came to April 1919, they were used to that idea of cooperating together, and with things like successful things like the Bottom Dog, they had the confidence as well to go on and call a general strike and to run the city for a fortnight. I'm sure, I really look forward, Robert, to reading your piece, Joe, and Keane's, and all the other pieces that are in it. I'm sure it'll be very entertaining read, like the old Bottom Dog, and also very informative as well. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. Thanks for Rob for asking me to do a contribution for it. When Rob asked me to do it, obviously I was delighted, so I started doing a little bit more research into it and found out different family connections we had to the Soviet. My great-granduncle was involved in the rescue of Robert Burns, but I didn't know my great-grandfather was involved in it as well, so I found that recently. But the article I tried to do when I tried to imagine the time of the Soviet and the hopes that people had at the time that we were going to, the general election was just over, a massive result for Sinn Féin and for people who were saying we're fed up, we're finished with England, we're going to set up our own parliament here. That was obviously rejected by the Brits and, unleashed the war on ourselves, but the Soviet was part of, workers coming together, Republicans coming together, people coming together, and there's a whole sense of, people were on a march to a republic, and I tried to link it into where we are today, where, 15,000 people probably are in emergency accommodation as we stand here tonight. Thousands of people are probably on hospital waiting lists. There's probably hundreds of people on trolleys as we speak as well. So we haven't exactly delivered a republic, and that's what I tried to say from the highlight of the Soviet and the energy of the Soviet and the times there where we are at the moment. Ended up with a partition country, with a sectarian state in the north, with a Catholic run state in the south, and with a lot more to do. So I tried to get those words into what I was trying to say or whatever. But just want to commend Rob for actually producing the thing, and I was really impressed. And I knew there was going to be a lot of events to celebrate the Soviet, but when you saw the actual list of events on Monday night when you launched that, it was just incredible. So well done to everybody involved.
Thanks very much. Anne, would you like to say a few words, please?
I'm a bit of an imposter now, Mike, because I haven't written anything. Just me feels as the tenant of the Mechanics Institute, maybe I could say a few words as well. And just to say that it's great to see the left in Limerick coming together like this, first of all. And secondly, I absolutely echo what Keane has just said about the importance of getting the message of the Limerick Soviet out more widely, because everyone in this room obviously knows a lot about it. But there are a lot of people in Limerick and in other parts of the country that wouldn't know what you were talking about if you mentioned the Limerick Soviet to them. So I think the work that's gone into this, and my absolute congratulations to everyone who's done it, is going to get the message out. And I think that's what's really admirable. So I suppose I just want to say well done to everybody involved. Particularly looking forward to seeing Mike's play as well, which I think is going to be on for about 2 weeks, is it?
10 days.
Yeah.
Mike is going to be called to speak on the article he did for me.
It's okay. But look, I just had my voice, I suppose, from another left perspective. Certainly the Soviet is something that I think we're all hugely proud of, that Limerick was able to do that at that time, and that it was done so well and so effectively, and just shows what workers can do when they get together. So
Thanks very much. Mike, can you tell us all about this play?
Obviously, I can't. This is playing.
Give away the ending.
The butler did it. I can't
talk about the article I wrote because I didn't write it, so apologies for that, but next time I promise. The play, yeah, I've just come from rehearsals, things are going really well. That's the good news. I think it's in good shape. I hope people enjoy it. Really excited by it. We had the full cast of people in last night. We have a cast of 11 people and a community cast of 15 plus 3 musicians. So there's about 30 people involved. It's the biggest cast I've ever worked with, and I'm really excited by it. I hope people like it. It'll be spectacular. Spectacularly good, I hope, not spectacularly bad, but it will be spectacular, that much I know. And I hope to see you all at it.
Okay. Thanks for that. Rob has just reminded me to say to you as well that what we're hoping to do throughout the festival, obviously people are going to record this festival to work towards the 200-year anniversary of it. When we look at the date that's up over the door here, 1810, we know we've surpassed 200 years there. So, there will be a festival edition of the Bottom Dog brought out. So if people want to be considering articles about how they, in their own particular group, commemorated it, keep photographs of it, and I think it will be very worthwhile put away paper for people to consider into the future. I think it will be incumbent on us to do that before we leave the stage in relation to, pardon the pun, before we disperse as a group commemorating the Limerick Soviet. Well, as Keane said, and as I've been banging the drum for a long time about this now, we have a lot of work to do yet together as a group in the left in Limerick. Certainly the Mechanics Institutes were set up originally for the education of workers, and that is my aspiration, is that continues, and that great thanks to Michal there. We had lectures going on here a number of years ago, and we know Michal is going to get back into that with us again soon. Probably sooner than we think. We'll talk about that, but certainly that's what we want to get back into, that whole spirit of educating workers and sharing ideas and viewpoints with each other and debating things generally that are relevant to the left. So, okay, I will look forward to seeing you all at that, and enjoy the festival. Get out there and do that, and all take your brochure with you and spread the news. Thanks very much. Thanks. From Nationwide, they were into an interview, and they said, the farm labourers, when they heard about this Soviet thing, they said, well, we're down in tools, we're going to take part in that. And then the industrial workers came along and they said, well, we're down in tools as well, and hence we have the hammer and sickle. And while Stalin stole our symbol, we want it back. It's the worker symbol. It's the workers. It's the combination of farm labourers and industrial workers coming together. And I think more so in Limerick during the time of the Soviet, it happened at that time. It probably hasn't happened again since then, where both forces combined. And I think we need to be spreading that story out there for people to work together from whatever aspect of society they come from. People power is what will change things in the future. Okay. There we go.
1919 was the year the trouble all went down. The Defence of the Realm Act was invoked by the Crown. They imposed martial law upon old Limerick town. They made the local people foot the bill. The local trades and workers' council met for 12 long hours and said, we will not recognise the British Army's powers. This city is the people's, we reclaim it now as ours. It ever was and shall be ever still. We are the Limerick Soviets. We only answer to the people's plea. We care no more for their martial law than the British Army curse for you and me. Than the British Army curse for you and me. The printing workers laboured through the darkness of the night towards the population to resist the army's might. Within 2 hours the city walls proclaimed a general strike, and Limerick responded to the call. Workers in their thousands were parading through the streets, The Irish Times was horrified and called for their defeat. But the people were in charge now, not the army or elites. So they held the torch of freedom for us all. We are the Limerick Soviets. We only answer to the people's plea. We care no more for their martial law than the British Army cares for you and me. Than the British Army cares for you and me. The Soviet Limerick, it lasted 2 weeks long, a forgotten revolution overlooked by history's song. John Cronin and his strike committee's beacon has not gone. It lights the path to justice for us still. We are the Limerick Soviets. We only answer to the people's plea. We care no more for their martial law than the British Army cares for you and me. Than the British Army cares for you and me. We are the Limerick Soviets. We only answer to the people's plea. We care no more for their martial law than the British Army cares for you and me. Than the British Army cares for you and me. Than the British Army cares for you and me.